Good morning. This is going to be your last 141 YouTube video that you get to watch or need to watch. So buckle up and we'll be good to go. So as a reminder, last time we looked at two economies and we looked at their production possibility frontiers and also then what they could consume if they were in this autarky state, this no trade, they're a closed economy. And the slope between tractors and pizzas represented the trade-off between tractors and pizza within that country. You could call that the terms of trade. So we would just call it a trade-off, but if you think about, well, what are we trading off? That's how we get this terminology, terms of trade, because it's saying how much for one tractor in terms of pizza. And we got that in country A, one tractor was worth 1,000 pizzas, in autarky 3,000 pizzas, and then the reciprocals if we're going back up the production possibility frontier. We're just looking at slope one way or the other. So if we look at the size of these two economies, it's pretty clear that country A, or the size of their resources, country A is a bigger economy. Now, why country A can produce more tractors than country B isn't really relevant, nor is it relevant why they can produce more pizzas than country B. It could be more resources, better technology, which really is more resources. It could be that they're better at producing tractors and pizzas. It doesn't really matter, okay? Instead, we have to compare one to the other because the thought is, hey, country A is better at producing tractors and pizza. Why would they trade with country B? And one thing that I have students do in class, I hope resonates with them, is take off their shoe. And the reason why I have them take off their shoe is I ask them where they were produced. China, Vietnam, Thailand, those are pretty high on the list. And if you care, pause me and take a look at your shoe. And if it's not one of those three places, you might be wearing Birkenstocks. If it's the United States or Mexico, you're probably wearing boots or leather products. But if you're wearing sneakers, it is a high likelihood that they came from Thailand, China, or Vietnam. So we have to look at that and say, okay, who's better at producing shoes, the United States or Vietnam? Well, I don't think it's not going to harm anyone's feelings if we said, well, the United States is better at producing shoes. So why then are we trading with Vietnam when we know that clearly we could produce more shoes? More shoes, bigger shoes, better shoes, okay? Why is it? That's where we get this very simplified example to tease out and answer why a big country like the United States would trade with a small country like Vietnam instead of producing their own shoes. So let's look at country A and country B again and talk about if they were to trade, how should they do so? Well, if we look at, and let's look at this from the perspective of country B. Country B really probably wants to trade with country A. Now, we're not talking about consumption per capita or anything like that. We can maybe just make an assumption that country B is able to produce and consume less than country A. That would be a fine assumption. So maybe they have more to gain in terms of their standing in the economy for individuals than country A does. It doesn't matter because if trade is going to happen, both sides have to gain. So country B has to maybe think about a way that could make country A say, oh yeah, trade would be a good idea. So we have to look at country B and say, well, what are they the best at? And you could say, well, they're not good at either one. Compared to country A, they make 1/5 as many tractors, and compared to country B, they make 3/5 as many pizzas. Even without looking at the terms of trade, we can see pretty quickly country B should make pizzas. It's kind of a crass way to say it, but country B is the least bad at producing pizzas, or it's pizza is what they suck at the least. If you're saying country B isn't good at anything, well, the thing that they're the least bad at is pizza production. And we can go up here to their internal terms of trade and see that. If country B is going to produce a tractor, they give up 3,000 pizzas. Country A only gives up 1,000 pizzas. So if you think about what's the resource cost in terms of pizzas of a tractor, country A is better at producing tractors than country B. But then down here, if we look at pizzas, now all of a sudden it's the other way around. Country B has an advantage, a comparative advantage, when compared to country A, in pizza production. They only give up 1/3,000th of a tractor, whereas country A gives up 1/1,000th of a tractor. The cost of producing pizzas in terms of tractors in country B is less than country A. So in terms of what they give up, country B is better at producing pizzas than country A, even though they can make simply fewer pizzas, maybe just because they're smaller. Think back to the last video. This is like me when I was a little kid. I was bad at every cleaning chore that was around the house. But what I was least bad at is what I should have specialized in. Dusting, picking up toys. Those are the things you can't screw up. If my older sisters would have given up dishes, bathroom cleaning, and laundry to do the menial tasks, the house wouldn't have gotten cleaned. So instead, they're good managers to this day. They're really good at telling me what to do. Tim, you dust. Tim, you pick up all the toys. You got them out. You can kind of view this in a similar way. So let's think about now a price or a term of trade between the two countries that could make them both better off. So let's say that country B says, all right, maybe we were here, 10 tractors and 30,000 pizzas, and we're going to completely specialize in pizza. We're going to make 60,000 pizzas, and we're going to trade them away for tractors. And we're going to go to country A, and we're going to make them an offer they can't refuse. We're going to offer them 2,000 pizzas for every tractor. Country B has to give up 3,000 pizzas to produce a tractor in their own economy. Instead, they think that they can offer country A 2,000 pizzas and get a tractor in return. If they were to do that, they could trade those 60,000 pizzas away. And if we take 60,000 divided by 2,000, that would be 30 tractors. So if we traded them away, now this trade line has become their new production possibility frontier. It's really a trade line. They can't produce there. But if they produce 60,000 pizzas, that's the new currency to gain tractors at a price of 2,000 pizzas to every one tractor as opposed to 3,000. So clearly, country A stands to gain this giant wedge. That's huge. Now, country A, maybe they were here, 50 tractors, 50,000 pizzas, or I don't know, let's make it 60 tractors and, 40,000 pizzas. Okay? And if they want to get to 50,000 pizzas in their own economy before they would have gone, let's make this 50 right here. To get 10,000 more pizzas, they would have had to have given up 10 tractors. Now if they give up 10 tractors, so if they go from 60 to 50, they give up 10 tractors, but remember, one tractor is worth 2,000 pizzas. That's our trade deal that we talked about over here. Now they can give up 10 tractors and get to 60,000 pizzas. So we have the same type of wedge that goes beyond their production possibility frontier, their gains from trade. So I want to ask a question and then pause me for a moment. I'm not going to pause in real life. Who gained more? Okay, I'll ask that again. Looking at these two graphs, who gained more? Okay, pause me, think about it. Okay, you're back. Country B gained more. I mean, seriously, look at it. Huge wedge. Country B has this tiny wedge, but it's really not so obvious. Country B did gain more in relationship to the size of their economy overall. But this example, 1,000 to 3,000, everybody gained extra pizzas or extra tractors, didn't they? I mean, if you look over here, Country A just wants to eat pizza. And they gave up 10 tractors, and before they would have gotten 10,000 pizzas. Now they get 10,000 more pizzas. If we're looking at it in terms of pizzas and tractors, the gains are exactly the same. We have a term of trade that splits the difference between the two. No one's winning this, okay? But remember that Country B would be better off if they have to give up anything less than 3,000 pizzas. And Country A is better off if they get anything greater than 1,000 pizzas in return. So even though it might not be exactly fair between the two, as long as they're in a trade deal that makes them better off, here we go, okay? Sometimes we get a little bit hung up on who wins the game. Shouldn't matter who wins the game as long as you're winning the game. Now I had when TPP didn't pass a few years ago, the United States was upset because other beef producers, Australia specifically, had a lower tariff or a lower tax rate with the Asian countries that were buying their beef. And the reason why they had a lower tariff rate is because they weren't as good as producing beef as Nebraska was. And so we pulled out and lost that deal. Now, should that deal be negotiated as best as possible? You bet. But if you pull out of the deal and have no re-entry point, that's not good. So we have to keep our eye on the prize. That trade if we take a step back and say, gosh, if we're trading for Nebraska products, that really means that demand is increasing. There's more consumers for Nebraska products, and more demand is a higher price. So we should have a push for free trade, but we do want to make sure that there are good policies, and we don't want to burn bridges, so to say. So that would be my what's good policy, and good policy is get the best deal you can, but make sure that you don't wipe it off the table because you might end up going to the dance salon. All right, Country A is doing all right. This gain is as big as this one. It just happens to be that their economy was pretty big to begin with. So there's less for them to gain relative to the overall size of their economy. Also keep in mind, Country A probably has more trading partners and has more of these little, relatively sized wedges to go along with their economy and their gains from trade, whereby Country B has to completely specialize in pizza production and may be more dependent on Country A or just a few big countries. Okay, I expect that this will encourage some discussion over Zoom this afternoon, and look forward to seeing you then.